The police cruiser rolled to a stop so close to my mailbox that its bumper nudged the post. Red and blue lights washed over my porch, my truck, and the hand-painted no HOA sign I'd nailed to the fence that very morning. I stood there barefoot, holding a cup of coffee, trying to figure out how saying I'm not in the HOA had escalated into two officers stepping onto my land. The shorter cop glanced at a clipboard. "Sir, we received a complaint that you're refusing to comply with the Homeowners Association." I almost laughed. Almost. "That's because I'm not in it," I said calmly. "Never was." Behind them, across the road, I saw her, Karen in a pastel blazer, arms crossed, phone held up like she was recording a crime documentary. She'd been waiting for this. The taller officer frowned. "According to the HOA president, this is private community property." I took a slow sip of my coffee. "Well," I said, 6 minutes from now, you're all going to realize something real uncomfortable." The Karen scoffed loud enough for everyone to hear. "Just arrest him already. He's trespassing." That's when I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded, weathered document, edges yellowed, ink faded, but legally deadly. "This," I said, handing it to the cop, "is the original land deed from 1897. The taller officer's eyebrows lifted. The shorter one muttered, "You might want to call this in." Because 6 minutes later, the HOA didn't just lose the argument. They lost everything. I didn't move to Cedar Ridge for neighbors. I moved there because it was quiet, overlooked by developers, and, most importantly, unfinished. The kind of place where maps disagreed with each other and county records still used phrases like approximate boundary. My property sat at the end of a gravel road the HOA thought they owned. They had gates, signs, newsletters, and a president who introduced herself as if she were an elected official. But I had something better. I had paperwork no one had bothered to read in over a century. The first HOA letter arrived 2 weeks after I moved in. "You are in violation of community guidelines regarding fencing materials." I returned it unopened with a sticky note. "Not in HOA. Wrong address." The second letter threatened fines. The third mentioned liens. That's when Karen showed up in person, heels sinking into my dirt driveway, sunglasses big enough to block out reality. "You can't just opt out," she said. "This is a private community." I smiled. "Not mine." She didn't like that. She really didn't like it when I put up the sign. So she did what people like her always do when they don't get their way. She called the cops. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the HOA had been built on a legal assumption so flimsy it might as well have been written in pencil. Cedar Ridge wasn't a development. It was an overlay. And my land? My land was the original parcel everything else was carved from. When the officers stepped back after making their call, the taller one looked at me differently now, less authority, more curiosity. "Sir," he said slowly, "do you know how much land you actually own?" I looked past him, across the manicured lawns, the matching mailboxes, the identical beige houses stretching into the distance. "I have a pretty good idea," I said. Karen's phone wobbled. The shorter cop cleared his throat. You may want to stop recording." Her face went pale, because somewhere downtown, a county clerk had just pulled an old map out of storage, and everything the HOA thought they controlled. The road, the entrance, the utilities, the very land beneath their feet. All of it traced back to one name. Mine. The officers stepped away from their cruisers and spoke quietly into their radios. Not urgently, not casually either. It was the tone people use when something doesn't fit the script. Karen noticed it too. "That's enough," she snapped, marching toward them. "You've seen his little paper trick. His lying. Everyone here is under Cedar Ridge HOA jurisdiction. I'm the president. I would know." The taller officer turned to her slowly. We're going to need you to step back onto your property." "This is my property," she barked. He didn't argue. He just repeated it, firmer this time. When she retreated, still filming, still fuming, I caught the shorter officer stealing glances at the document I'd handed over, like it might bite him. "You said this deed is from 1897, he asked. "Yes, sir." "And you're saying your land was never annexed into the HOA?" "Not just never annexed. I corrected. Never sold. Never subdivided. Never transferred. The taller officer nodded. Dispatch is pulling county plats now. That's when Karen laughed. A sharp, confident laugh. The kind people use when they believe the system is about to crush someone else. Good luck, she said loudly. That HOA's been here 20 years. You think some antique map is going to undo all that? I didn't respond, because this wasn't about time. It was about chains of title. Cedar Ridge didn't start as a development. It started as a marketing shortcut. 25 years ago, a regional builder bought several adjacent parcels surrounding my land. Instead of negotiating for the center tract, the one that held access to the county road, they assumed it was abandoned. They filed paperwork declaring an integrated community. No one checked the oldest deed. No one checked the easement language. No one noticed a phrase buried in the original survey, including all ingress and egress rights retained by the primary parcel. That parcel was mine, and that county road they all used, it crossed my land. The HOA gates, my land. The landscape median, mine. The private community sign, bolted into my soil. The mistake wasn't malicious. It was worse. It was lazy. A third cruiser arrived. Then a county SUV. The energy shifted. Neighbors began stepping out onto porches. Phones came up. Whispers rippled through the street like a breeze before a storm. Karen was no longer smiling. She cornered one of the officers. This is ridiculous. I demand this trespasser be removed. The officer looked uncomfortable. We're waiting on confirmation. Confirmation of what? Ownership. Her voice cracked. Ownership of what? He gestured vaguely. Possibly all of it. That's when her phone dropped. Not dramatically, just slipped from her hand and hit the concrete with a soft, final clack. The county clerk arrived next. An older man with suspenders, wire-framed glasses, and the unmistakable expression of someone who loved maps. He didn't even look at Karen. He walked straight up to me. Are you the one with the Turner deed? He asked. Yes, sir. I haven't seen one of those outside the archives in 30 years. He unfolded my document with reverence, then pulled a large tube from his SUV and unrolled a map across the hood. Lines, annotations, handwritten notes in ink long faded to brown. He tapped the center. This is your parcel, he said. Then he swept his hand outward. And this, he continued, is everything built around it. The HOA president let out a sound that wasn't quite a word. No, she said. That's not possible. The clerk adjusted his glasses. According to this, your HOA doesn't own the road. She staggered. Then who does? He looked at me. He does. Silence. The kind that rings. Someone asked about utilities. The clerk flipped another page. Water line crosses his land. Saw access to. Electric, easement revoked upon non-payment in 2003. Gas, he frowned. Technically unauthorized. Karen's face drained of color so fast I thought she might faint. You're telling me, she whispered, that our entire neighborhood is trespassing? The clerk shrugged. Legally, yes. The taller officer cleared his throat. So, what would you like to do? I thought about the letters, the threats, the fines, the smug confidence of people who assumed ownership because no one had challenged them. I'd like my land recognized, I said evenly, and I'd like the HOA to stop harassing me. Karen exploded. This is extortion. You planned this. I shook my head. No, I just read what I bought. The clerk rolled the map back up. I'll be filing a correction notice. Effective immediately. She lunged for him. You can't just take our neighborhood. He paused. I'm not taking it. I'm returning it. To me, by sunset, Cedar Ridge wasn't a private community anymore. It was a collection of houses sitting on land they didn't own. The gates were ordered opened. The signs were deemed invalid. And the HOA's authority? Suspended pending review. Karen sat on the curb, staring at nothing. As the officers left, the taller one shook his head. I've never seen anything like this. I smiled faintly. Neither had they. But this was only the beginning, because when lawyers got involved, and when dues stopped flowing, and when homeowners realized the truth, the HOA wouldn't just collapse. It would turn on itself, and in the middle of it all, I'd be standing on land that was suddenly worth everything. The first lawyer arrived the next morning. Black sedan, tinted windows, shoes too expensive for gravel. He didn't knock. He stood at the edge of my driveway, phone pressed to his ear, staring at my house like it had personally offended him. By noon, there were 3 more. Cedar Ridge had discovered something far worse than losing authority. They'd discovered panic. The HOA emergency meeting was scheduled for that afternoon in the community clubhouse on my land, though no one mentioned it aloud. I went anyway, not to speak, to listen. The room was packed. Homeowners filled every chair, lined the walls, and spilled into the hallway. The air buzzed with whispers, disbelief, and rising anger. Karen stood at the front, eyes red, jaw tight. "We are handling this," she insisted. "There's been a misunderstanding." A man near the back cut her off. "A misunderstanding doesn't shut off our water." Another voice. "My bank called. They want clarification on property access." Someone else shouted, "Do we even own our houses?" The lawyer raised his hands. "Let's remain calm." No one did. Here's the thing about HOAs. They survive on the illusion of control. The moment that illusion cracks, people stop paying. And the moment people stop paying, everything collapses. By the end of the meeting, half the room was demanding Karen resign. The other half was demanding someone else sue her. She tried to restore order. Everyone signed agreements. A woman stood up. Agreements based on fraud. That word landed hard. Fraud. The lawyer winced. I sat quietly in the back, hoodie up, unnoticed. No one realized a land thief was in the room. And honestly, I didn't need to say a word. They were doing my work for me. By Tuesday, the HOA's accounts were frozen. Banks don't like uncertainty. By Wednesday, vendors stopped servicing the neighborhood. Landscaping? Gone. Trash pickup? Suspended. Security patrol? Canceled. Thursday morning, the gate jammed open and stayed that way, and every single complaint landed at Karen's door. She came to see me that evening. Alone. No blazer. No phone recording. Just exhaustion and fear. "I need to talk to you," she said. I leaned against my fence. "About what?" "You know what?" She snapped, then softened. "Please." I gestured to a lawn chair. She didn't sit. "You're destroying us," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "You called the cops on me." "You could fix this," she said quickly. "Sell the land to the HOA. We'll pay fair market value." I laughed. That startled her. Fair market. I repeated, "Karen, the market just tripled." Her face fell. "Name your price." I shook my head. "I don't want to sell." "Then lease it," she pleaded. "Road access. Utilities. Just make this stop." I considered her for a moment. "You fined me for my fence," I said. "You threatened Elaine. You tried to have me arrested." She swallowed. "You never asked," I continued. "You assumed." Silence. "I'll make you an offer," I said finally. Her eyes lit up. "I'll lease easements," I said. "Individually. To homeowners, not the HOA." Her smile died. "That would dismantle us." I shrugged. "Sounds like a you problem." She left shaking. That night, the HOA board resigned. All of them, in an email titled Temporary Leadership Transition. No one volunteered to replace them. Without leadership, Cedar Ridge fractured. Some homeowners blame Karen. Some blame the developer. Some blame me. But most just wanted access to their own homes. I received my first offer that night. Then another. Then dozens. People begging for driveway access agreements. Utility easements. Road usage. Each contract was simple, fair, legal, and devastating to the HOA. The final blow came Friday. Karen tried to file an injunction. She claimed adverse possession. The judge laughed her out of court. 20 years doesn't override a recorded deed, he said, especially when access was never legally granted. She lost, publicly. By the weekend, Cedar Ridge HOA no longer existed. No Jews, no authority, no power, just homeowners with mortgages and no governing body. And me, the man they tried to arrest, now the man they had to negotiate with. I stood at the edge of the road Sunday evening, watching families walk dogs, kids ride bikes, neighbors talk nervously in clusters. They avoided my eyes, not out of anger, out of uncertainty, because they didn't know what I'd do next. And neither did I. But one thing was clear. I didn't just own land anymore. I owned leverage. And in Section 4, they'd learn exactly what that meant. By Monday morning, Cedar Ridge had discovered something worse than chaos. It had discovered organization. Not from the HOA, that was gone, but from the homeowners themselves. They formed a committee. They printed flyers. They knocked on my door. The first delegation arrived at 9:12 a.m. 4 people, 2 men, 2 women, all polite, all nervous, all standing just off my porch like it might bite. We're representing the homeowners, the tallest man said. Informally. I nodded. There's no HOA. Yes, he said quickly. We're aware. They handed me a folder. Inside, spreadsheets, handwritten notes, and proposal titled Community Access Resolution. I flipped through it. They wanted to collectively purchase easement rights, permanently, at a fair and neighborly rate. I closed the folder. No, their faces fell. Before you ask, I added, I'm not trying to hurt anyone, but I'm not selling permanent access. One woman swallowed. Then what do you want? I looked past them, down the road, over the houses, at the land no one thought mattered until it did. I want control, I said. That answer didn't go over well. By noon, the mood shifted. Whispers turned sharp. Emails circulated. Someone posted my name in the neighborhood forum. Someone else posted my address, ironically. By evening, I had my first threat. Nothing dramatic. Just a note tucked under my mailbox flag. You're playing a dangerous game. I laughed, because they still didn't understand the board had flipped. Tuesday brought the developer. Black SUV. Logo on the door. Smile like a contract. He didn't bother pretending to be friendly. You're sitting on a gold mine, he said, shaking my hand. And you know it. I know what I'm sitting on, I replied. He offered a number. 7 figures. I didn't blink. He raised it. I still didn't blink. You could walk away today, he said. Never deal with this again. I looked out at the houses. Families. Mortgages. People who thought they owned certainty. I didn't buy this land to walk away, I said. He frowned. Then you're making an emotional decision. I smiled. No, I'm making a long one. He left frustrated. He'd be back. That night, someone tried to move my fence. They didn't get far. The motion lights came on. Cameras recorded everything. By morning, the video was everywhere. Suddenly, I wasn't the villain. I was the guy being messed with. Public opinion shifted, slightly, enough to matter. The homeowners committee returned Wednesday. Different tone. No folders. No demands. Just honesty. We're scared, one man admitted. We don't know what happens next. I appreciated that. I don't want to evict anyone, I said. I don't want to shut off utilities. I don't want chaos. Then help us, a woman said. I replied, just not the way you're used to. I laid it out. Temporary easements. Renewable annually. Individually negotiated. No HOA. No collective power. They listened. Slowly. Uneasily. But what about maintenance? Someone asked. Form a voluntary association, I said. One without authority over me. They exchanged looks. It was freedom, and they were terrified of it. By Friday, contract was signed. One by one. Driveway access. Utility crossings. Road usage. Each homeowner got what they needed. Each one paid a fair rate. Not exploitative. Not generous. Just real. And every signature chip away at the idea of a centralized authority. Karen watched it all unravel from her porch. She didn't come over, didn't speak, just stared, because the neighborhood she once controlled now functioned without her. Then the city showed up. A zoning officer, a planner, a surveyor. They'd been tipped off. Your land use designation is unusual, the planner admitted. Unusual how? I asked. It allows for mixed-use development, he said. Residential, commercial, or something else. I smiled. That was a final piece. By Sunday, Cedar Ridge wasn't a neighborhood anymore. It was a collection of independent homeowners connected by agreements, with me at the center. No HOA, no president, no fines, just contracts and consent. And the land? The land was now officially recognized as a single, continuous parcel. Mine, worth more than anyone realized. That night, I stood at the edge of the road again. Same place, different world. Because next, I had a choice to make. And whatever I chose, Cedar Ridge would never be the same. The developer came back on Monday. This time, he didn't come alone. 2 attorneys, 1 surveyor, and a confidence that told me he thought the game had shifted back in his favor. You've created a logistical nightmare, he said, sitting at my kitchen table like he owned the place. For the city, for the homeowners, for yourself. I poured coffee. Nightmares only matter if you're trying to sleep, I said. One of the attorneys slid a document across the table. Condemnation notice. Not official yet, but close enough to be a threat. The city can seize land deemed critical to infrastructure, the developer said. Road access qualifies. I didn't flinch. You'd have to prove necessity, I said, and compensate at market value. He smiled. Exactly. That smile disappeared when I leaned forward. Which market? I asked. The one before you told them it was critical. Silence. The surveyor cleared his throat. Karen made her move that afternoon. She filed a civil suit. Not against me. Against the homeowners. Claimed they'd violated HOA agreements by entering individual contracts. It was desperate, and it backfired spectacularly. The judge dismissed it in minutes. There is no HOA, he said flatly. You have no standing. She broke down in the hallway, crying. Alone. No one followed. By Wednesday, the developer leaked a rumor that I planned to demolish homes, that I wanted to build warehouses, that everyone would be forced out. Fear spread fast. I counted it the only way that works. I invited everyone over. Saturday afternoon, my land filled with people. Barbecue grills, folding chairs, kids running. I stood on a flatbed trailer and told them the truth. I didn't buy this land to control you, I said. I bought it because I wanted to build something that lasts. I told them my plan. A community market, green space, local shops, a place that increased their property values instead of threatening them. Silence, then applause. Not thunderous, but real. The developer didn't clap. He left early. The city approved preliminary review Monday. Mixed use, pilot program, innovative zoning. The words planners use when they don't want to admit they're excited. Karen moved out by the end of the week. No farewell, no apology, just a for sale sign. The developer made one last offer. Double the original. I declined. He warned me I'd regret it. I didn't. By the end of the month, Cedar Ridge had transformed. Not physically, but fundamentally. People talked. Neighbors cooperated. Not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. And me? I wasn't the villain anymore. I wasn't the hero either. I was just the guy who owned the land and knew what to do with it. All that remained was a final step, the one that would make everything official, permanent, unstoppable. And when it happened, no one would ever doubt who owned Cedar Ridge again. The final document was thicker than I expected, not because it was complicated, but because it was complete. Every easement, every contract, every correction, clarification, and confirmation, all of it bound together in a single county record that would outlive me. The clerk slid across the counter and smiled. Well, she said, stamping the last page, congratulations. You are now the sole recognized owner of the Cedar Ridge primary parcel and all associated access corridors. Just like that. No lights, no sirens, no Karen, just ink and silence. The official notice went out the following week. Not dramatic, just a dry legal bulletin posted online and mailed to every homeowner. But the effect was immediate. Banks updated records. Title insurers adjusted coverage. The city revised maps. Cedar Ridge ceased to exist as a legal entity. Not dissolved, not defeated, erased. I walked the land that evening. All of it. The road, the green strips, the spaces no one had ever questioned. I remembered Karen standing in the street, arms crossed, so sure she owned the world. She never did. She just borrowed confidence from paperwork she never read. Construction didn't start right away. That surprised people. They expected bulldozers, fences, no trespassing signs. Instead, they got benches, trees, a notice board that read, "Coming soon, Cedar Commons." The name was intentional. Commons didn't belong to anyone, and to everyone. The developer tried one last time, through a proxy. I declined without meeting them. Power doesn't need to explain itself. 6 months later, the first storefront opened. A bakery, run by one of the homeowners who'd nearly lost everything. Her opening day sold out in 2 hours. Property values climbed quietly, steadily, without hype. I never formed an HOA, never appointed a board, never fined anyone. I leased space. I maintained roads. I kept utilities flowing. Not because I had to, because it worked. Sometimes people still ask how it felt. That moment when the cops showed up, when the whole thing could have gone sideways. I tell them the truth. It felt inevitable, because ownership isn't about signs or threats. It's about knowing what you hold, and refusing to let anyone tell you otherwise. On the anniversary of that day, I replaced the old sign, the no HOA one. In its place, a smaller plaque. Simple. Metal. It read, "Read your deeds." People smile when they see it. Some laugh. Some don't. Karen never came back. The last I heard, she tried to start another HOA somewhere else. It didn't last. As for me, I still drink coffee on my porch. Still watch the road. Still own every inch beneath it. The difference now? Everyone knows it. And no one ever calls the cops anymore. The end.